Many of us are fascinated with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. It's real life on display, real mental health relationship on display. I was watching a clip on YouTube the other night, and Johnny said something like, she went from being my girl, my wife, my partner, to being my enemy in these moments of rage and disconnection. We start to hear from him about that progression that they went through. Typically, that kind of progression happens when the honeymoon period of a relationship wears off, which neurologists are able to help us understand that honeymoon period wears off somewhere between 12 to 18 months after the beginning of a romance. So in this relationship, we see it on display. It's fascinating to watch because it's true life pain, and all of us experience this. Not just in our marriages, but in our relationships. We experience the conflicts, the ups and downs, the difficulties. And depending on the presence of addiction and mental illness, what we experience in our personal lives and relationships could be very, very intense, as we are seeing on display in this story. My name is Monica Maurer. I am a licensed therapist, and I'm also the director of the Center for Transformation. We exist to help you learn to create connection in this lonely and disconnected world. We are seeing in this trial true loneliness and disconnection. It's very, very tragic. We see that love and hate are very closely related. They're passionate emotions. And we start off oftentimes feeling love for someone. Our guard goes down. Our vulnerability is present. We desire deep connection. And when we let someone in, especially when we've had attachment pain in the past, when we let someone in and we let our vulnerabilities down, and then we find that connection at some points, and then other points we find them going into enemy mode and exploiting us and putting us down, damaging us, abusing us, then our defenses go up and we start to actually feel feelings of rage and hurt and hate. It's a very sad situation as we observe that this once happy couple who was very connected and loved each other enough to get married now finds themselves stone cold toward each other in the courtroom, not even looking at one another. And the sense of icy coldness between them is palpable. It's very, very sad, but I think it's a reality that we oftentimes see in our marriages. And like I said, depending on the level of addiction or mental illness, we may see it more quickly and more ferociously. Another point is the idea that we don't like weakness. When we're vulnerable with someone, we feel weak. And when we allow them into those vulnerable, deep places where we feel weak and then we find safety, it's a powerful experience. But when we let our guards down and we let ourselves feel that vulnerability and weakness, and someone is not safe to us, it creates something called ambivalent attachment. Ambivalent attachment is when the person who is sometimes a source of tenderness is now a source of terror. And I'm actually terrorized by the connection I have with them. I think it's very sad to hear Johnny's story of trauma from his childhood. His story obviously contains unresolved trauma, as he discussed his times when his mother would be suicidal, and it would leave him feeling like an insecure and abandoned child. Then he went into using substances because of these feelings of that would reoccur even in his adulthood. It's fascinating to me that oftentimes we marry someone who has a similar level of dysfunction psychologically. So in this scenario, we have a man who has childhood dysfunction, possibly unprocessed trauma, and difficulty related to that. Even developmental trauma is how we sometimes term that. Married to someone who has personality disorders, The psychologist mentioned the other day that Amber Heard has both a borderline personality disorder and a histrionic personality disorder, both very severe mental illnesses. She doesn't think those things are related to trauma, but it does sound like there is a bit of trauma in Amber Heard's past as well. The reason that we choose, our psyche actually chooses to marry someone who is just as damaged as we are, is because our psyche really hopes to resolve those things. We hope to resolve the things from the past through the relationship we have with our partner. Our brain, our psyche, our psychological self is trying to resolve all of the issues from our childhood and somehow knows that this other person could help us do so. That is, if the other person is willing to grow. What I oftentimes tell couples is, hey, if both of you are willing, we could actually do this. You could actually make this happen. No matter how hard it is, you could actually make it work. But in a marriage, in a committed relationship, or in a connected relationship, a romance, when there is one partner who's not willing to do whatever it takes, then we see that it won't happen, because it's hard work. As I've said several times in my past videos and my past episodes, it is so hard to stay connected. I have been in a marriage for 24 years and happy to say we are happily married, but it's been through tons of ups and downs. When I look back at pictures of myself early in marriage or even on the wedding day, I thought, I don't even know that person. I couldn't have known that person back then. There was so much that I didn't know about myself that I've only gotten to know through the sharpening experience of being in a marriage where both of us are doing our inner work, our journey, our psychological health journey. It's a powerful experience, but it cannot happen if both people are not willing to do the work that needs to be done. Another thing I want to point out about the trial is just how sad it is, how grievous I believe it is when celebrities are not allowed the gift of growing and maturity. We expect them to be perfect, and when they're not, we mock them when they're not. And I just think it's very sad that they have to live as if in a fishbowl. We're just observing every step they make, every move they make. And, you know, Johnny Depp has been so famous for so long, and he's brilliant in his movies, and we love to watch them. We're honored to observe his giftings and his acting career. And I think it's just really sad that we now are observing him in this situation and kind of exploiting his weakness. And we all are choosing whose side we're on, et cetera, et cetera. But Amber Heard has a sad story as well. And they can't deal with their own trauma in peace. It's now on display for the world. And so, you know, I think it's important for us to step away from this, observing what we can observe about their process and grow ourselves, and then also giving them the space and the time to heal, and not judging them for their process, but allowing them to do that in a place of honoring them as fellow humans, not just people that we have the right to exploit because they're famous. Thank you. Have a good day.